September 11th, 2021 marks 1 year since my grandmother passed away. Time moves scarily fast, and I really, really hate that. Just the thought that, her death is getting farther and farther away. She's becoming more of a distant memory. It just makes me uncomfortable. 1 year later, it is still extremely hard to believe that she is gone. Even to this day, I still kind of sort of hope that this past year was just one long bad dream that I'll eventually wake up from. But I know that this is reality. She is gone, and I still have so much trouble coping with that. I know you never fully get over the death of a loved one. It never really gets easier per se, but I didn't expect it to be this hard for this long. I thought, in a year's time, I'll still be sad over it, of course, but I would be able to cope with it a little better. I would accept that this is reality. She is gone, and I just need to pick up and move on. I have yet to do that. I still feel so much bitterness, sadness, anger surrounding her death because I still feel like this is something that really shouldn't have happened. I really don't feel like it was her time. I more feel like she was stolen from me and my family. I know, she was 81 years old. That's not young, but is it so preposterous to think that even 81 years old isn't necessarily the end? I feel like she still had quite a few years left in her because take away the cancer she had, take away the awful cough she had, she was completely normal. She was active, granted she had arthritis, but still, for a woman her age, she was in great shape. She was active, still cleaning around the house, she did what she was able to do, and she still had so much energy. Compare her to a lot of other compare her to a lot of other people who are that age, much slower. Maybe they have things like dementia, but she had none of that. She was sharp until the very end, and that's why I feel like her life was, well, not really cut short, but shorter than it really should have been, if you catch my drift, if you know what I'm trying to get at. I feel like if she were to pass away 10 years later at the age of 91 and I would be 29 or 30, I would have a little bit of an easier time processing that she's gone. I'm not trying to say I wouldn't be sad or anything. I don't have a crystal ball to look into and look into this alternate reality where she does live another 10 years and see how I cope with it. But I do really feel that I would have handled it at least a little bit better than her dying while I was 19, not even 20 yet. There's a lot of things that she won't be able to see, or at least not be here to see. Maybe she's somewhere right now watching over me, like so many people tell me, but it's just not the same. You could tell me over and over again she's in a better place. That's what I was saying to myself when she initially died, but it really doesn't make me feel any better. It doesn't make me feel any better at all. It's not the same. I just wish she was here physically. I could talk to her, do all the things that I always did with her. It's just incredibly hard to cope with, and, the fact that we're a year in and I'm still feeling these very strong emotions surrounding her death and still not really being able to cope with it. Me and her were incredibly close. She was like my best friend in many ways, and there's just been this void that has been here for a year now, or really over a year at this point. She went into the hospital. Initially, she went to the hospital under the impression that she was just going to have a simple procedure done, and then the doctors found cancer, and then she ended up on a ventilator for over a month, and then eventually she died because her organs shut down. But there's just been this big empty void that I don't think will ever be filled. People try telling me she lived a long life, she lived a full life, she lived until 81 years old. A lot of people can't say that about their grandmothers or their mothers. Living that long is an extreme privilege. I really don't feel it. It doesn't make me feel any better. It's easy for my mom and my uncles to say because they had her for 50 years. I only had her for 19. And she could have well have died when I was like 5 years old. She had cancer back then, too. And the doctor said it was a coin flip whether or not she'll make it, but alas, she did. And she got another 15 or 16 years of life, and I am eternally grateful for that. She could have just been a faint memory from my very young childhood years, but I got to spend so much more time with her. But you know, I still feel like me and her should have had even more time together. This probably sounds incredibly selfish of me, but these are my honest thoughts. These are the thoughts I've been dealing with ever since her death, and if it really is selfish, I can't help how I feel because this is how I felt ever since her death. It's to the point where I think, what if she didn't go to the hospital? Obviously, she would have died regardless, but if it really was such a hopeless situation, maybe her not going to the hospital and being in a hospital bed on a ventilator for over a month would have given me a little bit more time with her. Maybe she would have died in her sleep or something in the house, peacefully instead of being stripped of her dignity and being, again, in a hospital bed on a ventilator for over a month's time. Maybe she would have gotten a few more months of life. I, it still would have been incredibly hard, but I mean, at least I would have gotten a little bit more time with her, right? The doctors told us that it was a fucking miracle that she walked into the hospital at her own volition and not transferred to the hospital via an ambulance. That's how bad her condition was, but she was able to plow through it. She was still, again, doing all the chores she liked doing, still did all of these things around the house, was still very active. It's really a testament to how strong of a person she is. Or was, rather. See, even a year later, it's still very difficult talking about her in the past tense. Just the other day, I saw someone who was around my age at the grocery store with their grandmother, helping them out, pushing the cart for them. And it just harkened me back to me and my grandmother. That's exactly what I did when I went shopping with her. I would help her, I would push the cart for her. It is still extremely difficult for me to see people with their grandmothers to this day. I used to just break down crying at first seeing that, but now I just feel a lot of emotion inside of me. It doesn't manifest itself into tears or anything, but internally I weep. Because I think those people are incredibly lucky. They still have their grandmothers with them. They still, get to enjoy maybe quite a few more years with them. And they're around my age, and meanwhile here I am without mine. Now I do have a grandmother in Florida. She's on my father's side of the family. I've talked about her a little bit in previous videos. But obviously it's not the same. I never had the relationship with that grandmother that I had with, my grandmother that passed away last year. And I talk to her on a regular basis. I try to build up a relationship with her, but obviously it is just not the same. My paternal grandmother is a wonderful lady in her own way, and I love her to death, but the relationship I had with my maternal grandmother and the role she played in my life, it'll never be replaced. It's a void that'll just never be filled, and I'm sure a lot of people feel this way regarding, losing a loved one. Obviously, that's a big hole in your life that you're never exactly going to fill again. But to anyone watching this who lost, say, a grandparent or any other person who's really close to them, do you still feel these extreme emotions even a year or more removed from their death? Because I still feel, you know, I still just can't accept the fact that she's gone. I never really left the denial phase of grief. And I don't know how long it's really supposed to go on for, if there even is a set time for the stages of grief you go through. But I am still at that part. I still can't come to grips that she's gone. I still can't come to grips that I'll never speak to her again. Life has just significantly dipped in quality, I guess you could put it that way, ever since her death. I've always had struggles with depression, but I've noticed it's gotten a lot worse following her death. My periods of depression have gone on for longer. Whenever I do feel depressed, it's a bit more severe. I just don't know when the pain is going to end. I don't really have much else to say in this video. Just, it's hard to believe a year has already passed. And it really stings because I loved her to death. I still love her to death. Maybe I do. Maybe I will see her someday when my time comes. But for now, there is a big void that just cannot be filled. I still feel so much pain regarding her death. I just don't know. I, I, I don't know. Anyway, thank you for listening to my ramble about the pain I've been going through. Obviously, not a very entertaining video, but every once in a while I make these videos that are not for entertainment value, but rather just to get things off my chest, and that's exactly what this video was. I don't feel any better, but it did feel nice talking about this and not having someone interject with, well, she's in a better place, or it'll get better eventually, don't worry, just empty words that are piss poor attempt at trying to make the pain I'm going through a little bit less, hurt a little bit less. Maybe she is watching over me somewhere. I don't know. I can't say for sure, and none of us can say for sure, but even if she is, obviously it's not the same as actually having her around physically. Life will never be the same. It hasn't been the same for the past year, and will continue to be that way, I'm sure. I just fucking miss her, dude. Miss her so damn much. Sometimes I feel like this is some. I don't believe in karma, but maybe it is, because just a few months before my grandmother passed away, a friend of a friend lost their grandmother, and I came across their post on Instagram talking about it, and obviously I felt sad for them. I expressed my condolences in the comments, but it did reinforce how happy I was with my place in life. I still had my grandmother. I was still able to talk to her, hug her, express my love for her. Meanwhile, this girl lost her grandmother that she was extremely close to, similar to how me and my grandmother were, I'm sure. I don't know if that's a cold thing to admit. I don't know if that's a very douchebag thing, but, you know, obviously I felt sorry for her loss. I did feel sad for her, but at the same time, her loss just reinforced how thankful I was to still have my grandmother. I don't know, I've been having a lot of these irrational thoughts ever since her death. Maybe that's just part of me not being able to accept that she's gone. I'm coming up with these weird explanations about her death instead of, just accepting the most obvious. She had cancer, very aggressive and fatal cancer, and there's nothing we could do about it, but I still think maybe there is something, maybe there could have been something different done, you know? But I guess I just have to come to grips with, the fact that she's gone. We did everything we could, and, despite our best efforts, she passed away anyway because, you know, our best efforts just couldn't stop what she had. And I guess I just have a lot of trouble, coming to grips with that. Oh no. Anyway, I should have ended this video like 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry. Also, sorry about my voice being kind of weird. It's been all gargly and weird today. I really don't know why, but whatever. Anyway, if you still have your grandparents, cherish them, please, because you never know when they're gonna go. Same for any loved one, really. You never know when anyone who is close to you in life could go, no matter how old they are or how healthy they are, because, anything can happen. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Bye-bye.